wonderful Steve and Lou, your hosts for this evening, who are going to intro the evening. Thank you so much for coming. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Sam. Firstly, thank you everyone for coming. It's an absolute pleasure to see you all here. Some new faces, some familiar faces, some former guests of the podcast. In fact, so many that I had to list them all out, so I didn't miss anyone. In the front row, we got Lou Ali, who was our first live podcast guest. We got Luke Cope. Saw your talk earlier, Luke. That was brilliant. We got Mary Hickey, who also spoke earlier on. We got Alex Cassidy. Did someone just boo? Was that heckling in action? Shouldn't do. Alex is brilliant. And is he here? Is Vince Nero here?
He said he might be a bit late.
Might be a bit late. Let's move him. Okay, I was going to promote the fact that his episode of the podcast was out today, but I'm not going to bother. No, I am. Vince's episode is out today. On the subject of episodes, I'm contractually obliged to say this. If you haven't yet, if you could rate, review, and follow us, it really helps. You know, all that spiel. That sounded really insincere. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Coverage Book. Yes, Laura, yes. Without whom none of this could be possible, which I've always wanted to say as well. Sounded really official. And Brown Bear Studio, where we record the pod, who are brilliant. I don't think they're here tonight, but they are amazing. And I also want to thank our marketing team, Jill and Coco, who have elevated the pod to new heights. They are amazing and do some fantastic work. So thank you. Now on to the main event. We're thrilled to be joined by Paddy Moogan, a seasoned digital marketing and leadership expert. Paddy, you co-founded Aira. I feel weird, like, sort of addressing you with this. I'm going to address the room. Paddy co-founded Aira, built it brilliantly over a decade, and during that time has become a well-known and much-loved voice in SEO, content marketing, and agency leadership. But what truly sets Paddy apart is his deep commitment to helping people become better managers and leaders. He founded The New Leader, a platform of resources, courses, and weekly insights aimed at turning good managers into great ones, and also works directly with digital agencies as an advisor and coach. And tonight, we'll be talking to Paddy about all manner of things. AI will probably come up. It's going to come up, isn't it? Well, we've prepped the questions, so it's going to, yeah. It's definitely going to. Changes in agency life, work-life balance, and what it takes to be a great manager or leader. Paddy, thank you so much for being here.
No pressure. Thank you for having me. And also, I can tell you a PR, I use the word seasoned rather than old.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it. Yeah.
I ran that through ChatGPT. What's another word?
Yeah, thank you for having me, love.
Yeah, lovely to have you here. First question. You now obviously work with a number of different agencies and advising them. What do you think is easier or harder about running an agency now compared to when you started Aira?
I feel like agency world I've been in this world for like 20 years now, which makes me feel super, super old, but it all goes in cycles. So I feel like now there's so much opportunity for agencies, digital PR agencies in particular, because of LLMs, AI, visibility, that kind of stuff. Whereas when I started Aira in 2015, digital PR was still in its infancy. So that made it a bit easier because there weren't many agencies that really did a great job back then. There was probably a handful that did it to a good extent, but there wasn't that many, so that was actually easier. A few years later, it got harder because as we went into the pandemic, it felt there were dozens of agencies that did digital PR, so that suddenly got a lot harder. Now, PR feels like it's having a bit of a renaissance again, which I'll be honest, I didn't predict. I was kind of expecting the opposite for digital PR for a long time, but now it's kind of making a bit of a comeback. And so I feel like it gets harder and easier throughout those cycles. And so at the moment, I'm not going to say it's easier now, but there's lots of opportunity right now, and I think that's what matters, rather than agency life itself being hard or easy. I think it's always hard. I kind of joke with some of my clients that the agency business model is kind of set up to break people, because it's like you're 2 clients away from disaster in terms of like losing 2 clients. You're winning 2 clients away from taking off with your growth, so it's actually quite a stressful way of working. But it all goes in loops in terms of easy, hard. So
if ChatGPT hadn't become a thing, do you think there would be a different trajectory for specifically digital PR agencies at the moment?
Yeah, 100%. My biggest worry when we were growing Aira, sorry, I'm going to kind of half look at everyone here and half, because I feel bad for not looking at you answering the question. But I feel like my biggest concern was always the measurability of it and showing the impact of it, because it was always that classic issue where you got asked for digital PR, but what clients really wanted was links, right? That's pretty much how it always was. And then proving the impact of those links versus revenue was always difficult. It was possible, but it was always hard. And I only saw that getting harder, with attribution becoming harder, tracking becoming more difficult. And so during that period around 2021, 2022, I was worried about the long-term future of it for those kind of reasons. So now LLMs have given it like a new, I guess, breath of life, essentially, in terms of its value, because we all know that PR can drive visibility, visibility can drive mentions in LLMs, so it feels like that value is becoming a bit easier to demonstrate again. So it's kind of like overcome that challenge that I was feeling at the time I was running Aira, which was, what's the impact? You have to prove the impact of it. And the way I looked at it at Aira was, if you're charging £5, 10, £20,000 a month for digital PR, you've got to be able to have the conversation about how much that's driving for a company. You might be able to prove it, but you have to be able to have the conversation. And I just saw that getting harder and harder. Now, it's not easy, but it's coming back around and becoming a bit easier again.
Do you miss it at all? Like, what are the elements that you miss, if any? Because you were running an agency, like me and Lou run a team, which is very, very different. You've got a lot on your plate running an agency. Like, what bits do you miss? What do you wish you could go back to?
Some of my old team are here, so clearly I miss it absolutely. I do miss them. I miss elements of it for sure. I won't lie, it was stressful. It's hard running a company generally. And I think running an agency is one of the hardest business models to make work. But that also is a driver. So it's hard, but you get on with it, you crack on, and you just try and make it work. So I do kind of miss it, even though it was really stressful. But there are definitely times now where I'm like, it's not a problem anymore. Like, I haven't got to worry about it the way that I used to. So there's definitely elements of it where I'm glad that it's just me looking after myself as a contractor, freelancer, consultant. Because I always struggled with the pressure of people. Ironically, like, I love the people side of an agency and a business, but when we got to the point at Aira where it was like 15, 20, 25 people, all I could look at was, okay, they've got a mortgage, they're about to get married, they're about to have their first kid. And I'm like, Pad, don't screw this up, because if you screw up the business, it's going to affect them, and that was always there, and that's not particularly healthy, and I didn't realise at the time how unhealthy that was.
Yeah, so you took on a lot of that pressure yourself, and yeah,
and that's not the way it should be done, but I couldn't help it, and I couldn't help putting some of that pressure on myself to make sure we were doing the right things and doing right by people. And I think it's mostly a good thing, because it drives you in the right direction, but sometimes when things get difficult, you take all of that as well.
Yeah.
When you talk to agencies now, I imagine this might be something that comes up with them. What's your advice on that point around, I'm sure it's not, don't care about the people.
No, it's...
That's an amazing piece of advice.
This, I think, it'd be easier if people didn't, and there are agencies out there who, yes, unfortunately, and companies who don't care about their people, so it is easier to be like that, but obviously I don't believe in that whatsoever. But I feel like I do try and advise on essentially looking after yourself, and it might sound a bit corny, but just really being kind to yourself during those difficult times. Not I wasn't a lot of the time, and it was only really after looking back at it, I was like, wow, you really put yourself under that pressure. And it was only afterwards that someone, it's actually my therapist, was like, well, who is putting that pressure on you? So it's my own fault really, but now I try and advise founders on just kind of taking a step away, not underestimating little breaks, little holidays, putting the phone away for a couple of hours, like those kind of things. I think they really do add up. But also for anyone who doesn't own an agency, I think it's also true. If you work in a busy, kind of high-paced environment, you still need those moments to step away, otherwise it compounds and builds up, and it can get a bit too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's very intense at the moment with so much changing so quickly. And we did want to touch on AI for people that are maybe at the start of their career journey or just breaking into the industry. It's quite a challenging time, I would say. Like, what advice would you give to people who are at that phase of their career and might be concerned about AI?
If I was at that stage of my journey now, I would definitely try and lean into it and own it, and like, okay, so here, AI is not going anywhere. I think some of it is a bit overhyped, but no matter what, it's here to stay. So I feel like at the very, very basic level, you have to figure out how it may affect your job. Whether you work in PR, creative, content, SEO, PPC, start to figure out, okay, what can it do that helps me? How can it make me better? How can it be a really good assistant to me? And I feel like if you don't have that, you've got no clue as to how it could end up replacing you at some point. You have to understand it first, so I'd definitely start there. And I do believe now, though, that if you are, say, a PR, the skills for PR, creative, outreach, ideation, all that kind of stuff, I do feel like they're kind of almost like table stakes now. You have to be good at those things no matter what. The bit where you can differentiate yourself and kind of push AI to the side are actually the softer skills. So, for example, knowing how to manage clients, like having a conversation with a client who's angry because you've made a mistake on a campaign and knowing how to talk to them, or knowing how to say no to a client. Well, we're all really bad at saying no to clients, right? But knowing how to do it in a positive, constructive way when they're wrong or they've not understood something, those kind of skills, or looking ahead 12 months and just knowing what's going to go wrong on a project before a client does, those are the kind of things that I think protect yourself against AI, because for the foreseeable, AI can't do those kinds of things. They can't have that intuition when you're sat with a client and you just know they're a little bit tetchy, a little bit unhappy, and you drill into it a little bit. So I think it's the softer skills that are going to protect us against what AI could do, because it is going to take some skills, some tasks, and just automate them. But those are the kind of things you have to be able to do anyway. But it's the softer skills that I would personally be really leaning into. And also, if you work at an agency or you're in-house and you're good at those things, trust me, your bosses will notice. They really value people that are good at those softer skills, who can have hard conversations, who don't run in this direction when the fire's over here. Like, honestly, your bosses, your managers, the agency owners, business owners, they value that stuff. And again, AI can't do that. That's probably where I'll be doing, or where I'll be going.
Do you have any thoughts on I don't know if it's actually tools, or if it's just one tool out there, which automates the whole digital PR process using AI? So comes up with the ideas, writes the press release, sends the emails, builds the media lists.
In terms of, do I support them, or
I guess, like,
what do I...
yeah, how do you feel about it? I mean, because you were saying that there's elements that will naturally, probably, AI might take parts of a digital PR's job, and that's maybe the first iteration of, oh, this is actually a tool that says that it can do all of it. What are you thinking about that?
I can imagine how that's possible. And again, I feel this is why it's important to try it. Like, I would be trying to do that. I'd be, okay, could I literally, and I can say this now as an ex-agency owner with ex-team members in the room, if I was running an agency right now, I would be trying to say, okay, could I automate the whole process? Not to get rid of people, but just to see, is it possible? Is there actually a challenge here that at some point a client could go and do this themselves? So I do think it's worth seeing if it's possible. I still struggle with the idea that it would do it from start to finish, because as anyone knows who's run campaigns, there's always bumps in the road, right? Even the best campaigns, the ones you see shared and the ones that go viral, there's always problems, challenges behind the scenes. That's where I think the AI would struggle a bit more, because it can't always foresee what's going to go wrong. It can't foresee the client's brand team coming to you and be like, oh, actually, can't use that bit of data, you can't use that font or whatever it is. So there's going to be challenges along the way. But I think the process itself, yeah, it's possible. I wouldn't trust it completely. It still needs that element of oversight. And I think at the most basic level, if you think of AI as an assistant and a tool, everything else becomes a lot easier. So if you've got a whole process and you can assist in that process, fine, I think that's okay. I don't think it will replace the person doing the process if they embrace it and they're using it.
I'm going to move us away from AI. I think everyone's heard about AI quite a lot today. A very useful part of the discussion, but I wanted to talk to you about work-life balance. You've led an agency, you were talking about some of the things that you felt pressure with and put pressure on yourself. What's a fair expectation of work-life balance? What does going above and beyond mean in a busy industry? There's a lot of like buzzwords around it, and sometimes it's very, very unclear what the expectations are and what people demand of themselves. What's your view, Paddy?
Yeah, it's actually a really hard one because, again, having run an agency and seen people go above and beyond, but also seeing people who have not gone above and beyond where maybe I felt they should have done or should have put in a bit more effort, it's really hard to know where that line actually sits, because on one hand, I think the pandemic's been quite good for this, that in terms of knowing that, okay, my job is 9 till 5, 8 till 4, whatever it is, and then switching your laptop off, going home or walking into your kitchen and making dinner, that's a good thing. I think that has become clearer since the pandemic, that it's okay to do your job, log off, and don't think about it again until the following morning. I think that's been a good thing. But there's a reality, there's a bit of an unspoken reality, particularly in agencies, where if you're the person that occasionally does go above and beyond, who stops a bit later, who doesn't mind mucking in when they need to, I think that is noticed, and so it is going to make it stand out, and it's difficult, and this is where I'll struggle a little bit, because I don't want to advocate for anyone working crazy hours, being in the office till midnight, all that kind of agency world stuff that's hopefully in the past, but being prepared to do it occasionally, it helps. It does. It gets noticed, and so I always struggle with that because I don't want to advocate for it, but the reality is it can help you. I think that it's not just about the hours though, necessarily. I think sometimes going above and beyond is just being prepared to get involved in something that maybe isn't your direct remit. So if you see a colleague struggling on their project or their client, go and helping them, even when you don't need to. I think that can count as putting a little bit of extra effort in. And so that's the kind of thing where I'd be looking to my team to say, are you prepared to just be that kind of support for your colleagues when you don't really have to be on paper? I think the issue that I sometimes had as the owner of an agency is seeing people that would literally do their job to the letter and not be prepared to do anything beyond that, but then still expect quick progression, a pay rise every 6 months, all that kind of stuff. Those two things don't really reconcile.
And how did you deal with that kind of scenario? Because that's tough, right? If someone's doing their job to the letter and you can't really fault them for it, but they want that quick progression, was it just, hang on, let me think of the way to phrase this, was it just saying it out loud to them that you need to do a bit more, or was it, like, how did you kind of deliver that message?
So we tried to do it by being clear what progression meant and what constituted different types of pay rises as well, because a lot of it was around pay, because promotions will happen every so often, but pay rises may happen in the middle. And I think we tried to differentiate between someone who got a standard pay rise, inflation, a little bit kind of above that maybe, and someone who's going to get a lot more than that, by trying to show, okay, well, someone who goes really, really above and beyond their job is going to go to the higher end of that threshold. Someone who literally does what they need to do, yeah, okay, everyone needs to get increases every so often, but you're only going to get the basic level. We tried to put that in place. It's harder to action in reality, because you end up with people who are a bit unhappy with what they get. But we tried to be really clear that if you want to progress this kind of level, here's what you need to be doing. And it was always pushing beyond where you wanted to be or where you were, because that's what you have to do to move to the next level, I think. But it was really hard, and it got to the point where you just accept that you're going to make decisions that are going to make some people unhappy, and that's how it is running a business.
Yeah.
Do you think that the kind of remote hybrid working in an office, does that affect how much you're perceived as going above and beyond? Like, obviously you had Aira during COVID, so I don't know before COVID whether was it just all in office? And
then fully office based before COVID.
And then I'm guessing obviously all at home, and then hybrid?
Yeah.
Yes. So I guess interesting to hear your opinions on that style and which one is preferable. But I guess for people working at agencies or in-house, sometimes maybe having the recognition, you might assume that if you're in office, people might notice you going above and beyond more so than when you're just doing something, at your kitchen table and, no one's watching you do that.
Yeah, again, it's a reality. Like, I think the truth is that when you're in the same location, it's not just the going above and beyond, it's just those kind of random conversations where you work on a project together or you vocalise you're finding something challenging and someone comes over and helps you. That doesn't really happen fully remote unless you go out and ask for help, and people might help at that point. But I feel like the office enables it a lot more. So a lot of companies, what we got this wrong, honestly, during or just after the pandemic, where we were hybrid, but we didn't account for the fact that, we can't really see people helping each other. We can't really see them kind of physically working together on a project. We can't see them going above and beyond and stopping late, like that kind of stuff. And that did make things difficult for us. So I think the reality is, yes, it can make a difference to be in the same location, but it doesn't have to be that way as long as an agency or company you account for it. We didn't do that very well. We were kind of in that messy period for a while where we were hybrid, and people were back in the office a day or two a week, but it was really, really flexible. So what ended up happening was we said to people, okay, come back in the office a day a week. The SEO team came in on one day, the PPC team came in on a different day, PR team came in on a different day, because they were all avoiding each other. Like, they were just kind of like, we're coming here. It's like, that's not really what we meant, guys, come on. So we had to be a bit more clear in what we wanted. But I feel like when it comes to progression, as long as the work itself speaks for itself, you're fine. But again, a lot of agencies aren't really set up to notice that or to really track it properly, I don't think.
I think, like we've discussed this before, how it was 5 years since COVID now, and it does feel like the shift, it's not like that everyone's saying, I suddenly want to be in an office now, but there's definitely more appetite for being in an office, and that just might come from personal preference, not even about, my career progression might be affected by it or anything like that, but it is interesting to see the shift. Do you have any advice to agencies around what you would suggest in terms of their setup, or is it just agency by agency?
It's definitely agency by agency, but also my advice is to pick a lane and commit to it. Again, we didn't do that. We thought we'd chosen the option by saying hybrid, but we didn't really commit to it. And that's partly on me. Like, I was the company I wanted to run was in an office where I saw people, they saw me. And so I think I didn't do a very good job of embracing the remote only or remote first way of working. So my advice now to any agencies, but also individuals, in terms of when you're looking for jobs or your career, like, just know what you want and commit to it. So for a company, my advice is, okay, pick what you want and then commit to it in terms of your policies, your measurement of work, the way that your culture works. You have to fully commit to it. So I genuinely believe that if a business owner wants their team in an office 5 days a week, that's their choice. That's how they want to run their business, and they commit to it. If you want to be fully remote, that's fine as well. Neither of them are wrong, but they can go wrong if your policies, your ways of working don't support your choice. So again, if you're hybrid, you have to commit to what does it actually mean. What does it actually mean in terms of days in the office? What do you actually expect from people? Because if you don't set that out clearly, again, we didn't, people either won't do it, or they'll do it in their own way, which doesn't do what you expected, like your teams who don't like each other coming in on different days of the week and doing it very deliberately, as we found out. So it's one of those things where if I could go back and do it again, I'd just be, and it sounds bad because you don't want to be too strict on it, but I'd be like, here's what we're doing, it's our decision, we've made it, and it may mean some people don't like it, but again, that's the reality.
I'm just looking down the list of questions we set out to ask him. We've got an absolute belter here, I think, and I'm fascinated to see how you answer this one. The question we had is, do you think you can have friends at work? Should you? That's controversial, isn't it? How are you going to answer that, Paddy?
Absolutely not. I've worked with colleagues who have become friends and then got married and had kids, so it can work out sometimes. Yes, of course. You're allowed, I think you should be allowed, sounds even weird saying it, to make friends at work. We work 5 days out of 7, right? It's a bit shit if you can't make friends with people. But on a serious note, there are boundaries. One of the biggest challenges that can come up is like if you're friends with someone, you work on the same level, then one of you gets promoted and you have to be the boss of that person who is your friend and your colleague, but you used to be at the same level. I had that back in my previous life, and you have to be able to draw boundaries there and kind of respect the fact that, okay, you are friends, you are peers, you used to be the same level, now one of you is a manager. And I feel like as friends, you need to equally respect those boundaries. And I feel like if you're the person who's trying to put those boundaries in place and your friend isn't up for it, they're probably not a friend. Like, a good friend should realise, okay, this is a bit awkward, it's a little bit difficult, but we're friends, let's figure it out. So yeah, you absolutely make friends at work, but I won't lie, it can be challenging sometimes when you get those kind of weird dynamics, and when things go beyond the friendship as well, sometimes that can get a bit difficult. And thankfully I've not had that too much, but I also had managers who I was like, okay, I'll let you deal with that.
Kind of want to do some more digging, but names will be named, you know, and I don't think that's right.
It's the stuff. So being serious for a sec, when you run a company, so we got to around 50 people at one point, and you have nights out, you've got people who are friends, you've got people who are probably more than friends. I was kind of like, you know what, I'm okay not knowing. I'd rather not know what's going on, because also I'm the boss, people don't want me knowing stuff anyway.
But how did you avoid knowing? Was it just sort of
I didn't ask.
Cover your eyes? Oh, you didn't ask?
Sometimes you get a feel for stuff. I'm digging myself up.
Should we move on?
This is being recorded. You kind of like, you know that people are going to be friends and all that kind of stuff, and I love that side of it. But I think there's also an element of you're trying to run a business, and that's the line which I tried to tread, which was like, okay, well, things are going to happen. There's an element of this which is like, okay, I need to kind of just separate that from the business. Otherwise, you get sucked into it. It's kind of like, well, if people are adults, you trust them to get on with things as adults, and that's the line that I took. And otherwise, it just dominates too many things and becomes really difficult. And I want an easy life, so
fair.
Let's leave it to them.
Totally fair.
I subscribe to your newsletter,
Awesome.
and I find it really, really interesting. Lots of good tips around how to be a manager, how to be a leader, lots of different subjects. I'd be just intrigued, I'm just going to distill it into 3 words. Do you have a kind of, 3 words that you would describe as a good leader or a good manager or a mentor? What kind of 3 things sum that up?
I think listening is probably the first one. If you're a good listener, very few people are truly good listeners, because people think they're listening, and what they're actually doing is thinking about what they're going to say next. So they're not they're listening, but they're not really present with what that person's saying, because they're like, okay, well, I need to respond to this. I'm going to start thinking about my response before they've really finished what they're saying. So I think as a manager, leader, or just a really good colleague or friend, if you're actually a really present listener, that for me makes so many other things easier. Selfishly, I think it's one of the things which I'm quite good at. Randomly, like, it sounds really weird sitting up on a stage with a microphone saying this, but I'm not very confident when it comes to speaking. I had a little speech impediment when I was a kid, and so I am never the loudest person in a room usually. So I became naturally a good listener because I didn't like talking very much. I was a bit conscious of my accent, so I had a bit of a speech issue. And so it accidentally made me a good manager, because I would genuinely listen, because I didn't really want to talk. Because I'll happily ask you one question and let you talk for 5 minutes. But it turns out that's actually really good for a manager to have. And the worst managers are the ones who they don't listen, they don't care, they just want their own thing to happen in the conversation. So that's definitely one of them. Empathy. Empathy's gotten a bit of a bad rep from some corners of the world recently, but I think it's one of the most vital things you can have. Like, if you have the ability to put yourself in someone else's position and you manage that person, you're trying to motivate them, you're trying to get the best out of them, and you can literally sit there and think, okay, what would they do? What are they thinking? What are they feeling right now? It helps you figure out what you should do next. So I think empathy is the other one. Third one, trust. If they don't trust you, you're screwed. Like, because ties in with everything, where they won't come to you with a problem, they won't come to you with a challenge, they won't trust that you're going to do the right thing by them. If they ask for, you know, a promotion or a pay rise and you have to go to your boss to get approval, that kind of stuff, if they don't trust you, they're not going to trust you've got their back to whoever it is. So I think, yeah, trust, empathy, listening were probably the main three, which I'm not a natural at any of those things. I try very deliberately to be good at those things because they're not easy. Some people are naturals, but you can definitely teach yourself to be good at those things, or at least better at those things.
Do you think you need all of them, or can you get away with 2 out of 3? I'm not asking for myself. I think I've got them all in my locker.
Right, let's talk about it. I think they're all important, just to varying degrees. Obviously, you lean into your strengths. So for me, listening is probably the one which I'm most good at. But you lean into your own strengths in terms of, if you're very empathetic, you do have to be a bit careful with that, because it can like backfire in terms of over empathizing with someone to the point where it affects you. But I think they're all pretty important, but they kind of change in importance over time. Like if you're just starting to work with someone for the first time, just listen to them. That's it. Don't worry about anything else. Just listen to them and understand them first.
We've only got a couple more questions, and then we're going to throw it open to the floor. So if anyone has any questions for Paddy, you will get a chance to ask them. It feels like I'm doing the more light-hearted questions, because I'm going to ask, do you have anything from your working life that, just for context, Lou came up with the questions. I verified them as well, but do you have anything from your working life that still makes you cringe now? Can you share?
Having friends at work? No. Okay, so there's one thing there's many things I look back on when I was running my company that I was like, oh, why did you do that? But the one thing that actually came to mind when you originally asked me this was, I think we were about 2 years into Aira, maybe 2.5 years. We got to like 15, 20 people or so. And we did like monthly updates. Me and my co-founder would stand in front of the team like this and do an update to the company. And at that point, we hadn't lost any team members. We had 100% retention in the team. And I stood up to people and said, okay, our goal is 100% retention across the whole team for the next couple of years. And I was like, so I'm basically saying no one is ever going to leave this company. And I can hear myself saying it now. I can remember the slide where I put 100% team retention. Now I'm like, what the fuck were you talking about? Like, everyone leaves a job at some point. Why were you expecting all these people sat in front of you to never leave? And I was like, looking back on it, I was like, it's just ridiculous, stupid. But also, it makes me cringe even more, because at that point in time, and for a little bit afterwards, if someone did leave, I took it so personally. That makes me cringe now, because why did you? It's okay, you don't want people to leave, but I really took it in a way that, oh, what have we done wrong? What could we have done better? I'm trying to build a great place to work, but they're leaving it for somewhere else that isn't as good, in my opinion. Like, sometimes I was right, sometimes I was wrong, but I took it really personally. That makes me cringe now, because I'm like, it's fine, people leave jobs. It took me probably another couple of years after that to realise it's fine. And it got to the point where towards the end I was like, oh, okay, some upset me more than others, but it happens. It's fine, people move on. Sometimes they come back, but you know, it's fine.
They do, yeah. I had the same actually when I took over the team here. I kind of had that unrealistic aim. I was like, I just want everyone to stay all the time, and it's just not feasible.
No, because you think of it as a reflection on you.
Yeah.
Like, particularly when you're a manager of a team, and sometimes it's not about you. Like, sometimes it is, but realistically, a lot of the time, if you've got a good place to work, a good culture, reasonably happy team, good workload, 9 times out of 10, you couldn't have changed anything. You know, you couldn't. It doesn't mean you shouldn't reflect on it and think, okay, could we have done something better? So we got to the point where we did exit interviews with everyone who left, and then that was never conducted by me or anyone else senior. That was good, but most of the stuff we couldn't really change. Like, we could learn from it sometimes, but that really helped me think, well, they were going to leave anyway. You couldn't have changed it. And then I suddenly felt a lot better about the whole thing. So yeah, I definitely cringe over that still. This is a much longer story, so I won't tell it, but I also cringe when a client once got told they were going to work with me and my old agency, and they said, no, not Paddy.
No, that's actually really upsetting.
They were right. I'd screwed up a project a few years before, and they remembered. And then they came back and was like, no, not him.
So it's less upsetting, it's more...
Well, I'm still... the reason that it's cringy and horrible to think about is because, so when I made the mistake on their project, I was like a mid-level consultant, relatively new into the company, and I did a bad job on their project, so fair enough. When they came back and said no to working with me, I was running the whole office. And so it kind of got around the team that the guy that runs the whole office has just been told by a client they don't want to work with him. And so, of course, everyone wanted to know why, and I had to explain the mistakes that I'd made. So that was quite humbling.
That is quite humbling.
Yeah, and I'm not bitter about it or anything like that. That client. But yeah, so you've made me reflect quite a bit on myself with that question.
Using some of the techniques you deploy in your
It's really annoying.
Let's ask Lou the same question. I'm quite intrigued. Let's put you on the spot. Do you cringe about anything? I know. I always like to throw a little curveball for you. Anything you cringe about?
Oh, a million mistakes that I've made, which I don't know. Caused a slight fracas in Luton once, and that with a story that was about Christmas, and it was awful. I still cringe about it now. So
yes,
yeah.
I remember you calling me about that one, and we chatted it. I thought, complete transparency, made a poor joke about a carrier pigeon in like a pitch with a mobile tech company, and I thought we would get a little laugh, and they just looked stony faced, and it was. I genuinely wanted to just leave the call immediately. I was like, why did I say that? Abby remembers it. Abby was on that call. It was really bad, wasn't it? Really, really.
It wasn't like Music Magpie or something like that, was it?
No, I won't name the brand. I won't name the brand, but it could have been. It could have been. Lou, last question.
Yes, our last question. We asked this to Luanne when she came. I don't know when it was, but the last time we did this. Room 101. You've been in the industry for. You're a seasoned professional, as Steve said. I'm not going to say it's a long time.
Yeah.
Are there a number of things that you would like to put into Room 101 that you never want to either hear or experience again?
So, yes, I am a seasoned professional, been 20 years or so, but the first thing that came to mind is very, very recent. GEO, AIO, whatever it's called today, like, I'm just a bit done with it, and there's value in the thinking behind it, but I wish that we could just push it to one side for a little bit until people figure out what we're actually doing here, and it actually has a big impact. Because at the moment, I feel like the hype doesn't match the impact, and I feel like the amount of attention it's getting, and it's the new terminology, the new ways of working, I wish I could just bin it for probably another 3 or 4 years. But it's what we do as an industry. We latch onto things and we get excited, which is really, really nice, but then we kind of like, okay, well, guys, we've got a job to do. Like actually, your podcast with Rand, I was having a listen to that, and I think it came up around links really probably not being so much of a thing, and I was like, because of ChatGPT. And I was like, Google still exists. Like, there's still a big part of the market. So I'm having issues at the moment with the, I guess, attention it's getting, and I wish I could just not put it in Room 101 forever, but definitely for a couple of years, and then come back to it when we're a bit more sure about what it is, what it means, and it's actually going to have an impact, because it will. I'm not naive about that, but that's definitely one thing. Am I allowed to say PR agencies to just make shit up? Is that
you
can I put that
absolutely
in
are,
there?
yeah.
Because that seems like it's come back. I know that it was a thing for a couple of years where certain agencies who were known for just making up data and making up surveys, and then it kind of felt like it got curtailed a little bit, but now because of ChatGPT and making up spokespeople and stuff like that, it feels like it's coming back around again, so I wish that could just disappear as well, because it's not doing us any favours as an industry at all. I wish I could get rid of that. I think of one more. Can I say domain authority as well? I think that's... I think we've moved past that as an industry now. I feel like it used to matter a lot. I wish we could just move past it completely and focus a bit more on the actual sites themselves, and are they actually of any value to a human, not just an algorithm of someone. I know the guy that built it, so I felt a bit bad about that. But it's. I think we've got.
I don't think he likes it anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say he doesn't like it.
There's a number of reasons for that. Yeah,
oh, okay.
But there's. I think we've grown past it. I think those kind of, again, metrics are fine. I'm a geek, so I do support that kind of stuff. But I do think we've moved past it, and I still see it mentioned and used in ways I'm like, oh, I think we're just beyond it now. So I think I'd get rid of that as well. I did make a whole list. But,
You warmed to the theme.
Lovely, yeah, I would agree with all of them. Good choices. That was our final question.
It was. So does anyone have any questions for Paddy? We have a few minutes left. It's totally fine if not. Lou is also going to sing us a song
Oh, look, we
to
have some
conclude.
questions.
No, there are questions. There are questions.
Did not even hear.
I saw... Well, actually, we're not going to go propeller net people first. Abby, did you raise your hand?
Yeah.
You did?
Yes. As a seasoned professional, you must have seen a lot of different agencies in the digital PR industry, and I would say the sort of bigger players in the digital PR agency world are very different now to how they looked 10 years ago. Aside from AI, what do you think are the biggest challenges for new agencies coming into the digital PR world?
Really good question. I do think that standing out is harder than ever, because you still see a lot of the same types of executions of campaigns, the same formats, like the same. Actually, I think I had indexes on my Room 101 list and most Instagrammable. I was doing that 15 years ago. Come on, guys. But that makes it harder to stand out. So I think standing out is actually genuinely quite hard now, even more so with AI. But I think even on its own, that's more difficult. I think also recruitment is a bit more difficult. Keeping people is more difficult. I do think, again, this shows my age a little bit, but I was of the generation where when you joined a job, you're probably there for 3, 4, 5 years, and if you left after less than 2 years regularly, that was genuinely perceived as not a good thing. It's not as simple as that, obviously. There's good reasons for moving around, but now I think that's become quite normal, which again is completely fine, but that is a challenge for an agency because you train someone up, it takes 12, 18, 24 months, and then they may move on for very good reasons. So I think retention can be a bit more difficult for newer agencies compared with the ones that are a bit more established. People know them, they've got their brand and that kind of stuff. So they're probably the main things that I'm definitely seeing being more difficult as well as the remote versus office thing. That's still very much up in the air for me with agencies where people expect a lot of flexibility, and some agencies simply can't offer it without kind of like completely bending on policies that they believe in, and that's puts me in a difficult spot because I want to keep growing and hiring people, but if that means going fully remote, they might not want to do that. So it's a bit of a difficult spot to put themselves in. But yeah, I'm going to keep thinking about that because I feel like that's actually a really good one that's going to keep on mind usually. But also I'm going to put seasoned professional on my LinkedIn.
Any other questions? Raquel?
Hi. You've been managing people for a really long time. Do you think there really is such a thing as natural leaders, natural followers in the workplace, or is it just much more fluid? And if you think there are, do you ever get a gut feeling about people and have you ever been wrong about it?
Okay. I definitely get a gut feel about people. I think sometimes you when you interview someone, you often know within 10 minutes most of the things you need to know. Often you need to sense check and make sure you're right. But I have also gotten that wrong. So actually one of my best ever hires, the first 10 minutes of their interview, I was like, no way, this isn't going to work. I don't think they were doing a great job at interviewing essentially. The final 50 minutes of the interview blew me away. So after the first 10 minutes, I was like, nah, this isn't going to work. So I got proven wrong on that one. And they've now gone on and done some really, really cool stuff. Going back to the natural leader stuff, I think there definitely are natural leaders, but I think if you're not one, it doesn't mean you can't learn it. Like, I don't think I'm a particularly natural leader. A lot of the stuff that I've learned to become a better manager or leader, I've literally read a book or listened to a podcast or just tried to speak to people about how to do it and then had to deliberately do it. And it's like the listening thing. So I've tried to learn that and more lean into that kind of perceived weakness that I had when I was growing up. But I still have to deliberately engage my brain in that way. when I'm at home with my wife, she's like, okay, well, you're really good at listening at work. What happens when you're at home? It's just like, because I'm not natural, I have to think about it. If I'm in a meeting with someone or an interview, I'm deliberately switching those kind of parts of my brain on. Some people don't have to, so I feel like you can definitely be a natural leader, but it doesn't mean you can't be a good leader if you don't feel like you're natural. I think a lot of it can be learned. I do think the element though of just giving a shit about people, like if you don't do that, like that's hard to learn, right? If you're just that kind of person, and being kind, being empathetic, those are natural things, but they can be learned to some extent. But there are some fundamentals that probably mean someone should never ever be a manager, but they're the ones who often don't know it sometimes, ironically.
One more question, Megan.
The client you mentioned didn't want to work directly with you. Did your team win them over in the end?
Yeah, we closed the project, someone else more junior delivered it.
You're not working on it in some aspects?
No, I just kept an eye on it from a distance and secretly resented every single thing that happened on the project. I don't even know if they exist anymore. They were a huge reviews platform, a bit like a Trustpilot, but a bit different back in the day. But yeah, we still won it. I still remember so the sales guy who sold it, I still remember walking over his desk and he showed me the email where it said, "No, not Paddy." And he was like, to be fair to him, he was like, "Are they dicks?" I was like, "Nah, they're right." And he was like, "Do you want me to still try and sell it and pitch?" I was like, "Yeah, do it, just do it without me, obviously." So yeah, we still closed it. It was a one-off project. It was really simple piece of work, so it was fine. But it's, as you can tell, it's always stuck with me. And but you learn from that kind of stuff, and you realise as well, clients don't forget stuff. Thankfully, they came back to the agency as a whole because generally the agency was good, but they just didn't want little old me anymore. Yeah, it's one of those things that I try and use as a learning moment now more than anything else.
Lovely.
Are you going to do the outro? We never decide in advance.
That concludes
the discussion.
Thank you so much for the questions, and thank you so much for listening and coming in the first place. Lovely to see everyone, and thank you more importantly to Paddy for answering all our questions.
A wonderful guest, Paddy. Thank you.
Cool, thanks so much.